Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today we're doing another R&R, reviews and ratings, of all the games I've been playing this last week with friends, family, and solo. I've got 10 games on my list this week to talk about, and we got some pretty good games in there. So let's jump right into that first game with Thanos Rising. Thanos Rising is a cooperative dice chucking game where players will play as a team of Marvel superheroes, trying to defeat all of Thanos' villains and keep him from getting all the Infinity Stones. This game is part of the Rising series of games that I quite like. The system this uses is the dice will be assigned to either recruit more heroes to your team or to damage the villains. I give this game an 8 rating and has become a go-to cooperative game for my game group. Next, let's move on to a small card game that I played solo, and that is Village Green. I played Village Green quite a few times this week, and it is this sort of Sudoku-like game where you will be playing your green cards in the middle, and on the top and left will be goal cards. The goal cards on the top will use those goals for the green cards in its column, and the goal cards on the left will use the green cards in its row to score. It is an interesting game, but not sure it does anything too unique or that great to separate itself. I'll give this a 6.5 solo rating, and I'll probably be passing this game to a friend after a few more plays. Checking out another card game now with Hnefatafl. Hnefatafl could be on my reviews and ratings every single week, because my family plays this game constantly. This is a team-based set collecting card game that you just need a few decks of regular playing cards to play. You'll be dealt 2 piles of 11 cards, and you and your partner are trying to play through your hand and feet of cards to score the most points. I am definitely biased on this rating, giving it a 7, but it is one of my family's favorite card games, so I would suggest to play it with your parents, kids, siblings, whoever enjoys card games. Let's move on to the very strange, unique game of QE. QE is a game I've seen a lot about over the last couple years, but never got my hands on. I knew how unique of a game it was, but was expecting that I probably wouldn't like it. It is a bidding game where all players are bidding on companies that are worth points. The catch is, you can bid whatever you want. You have an unlimited amount of money. Then, at the end, first the player that spent the most money is eliminated. Then the player left with the most points wins. I thought there was no way this game would work. But I really enjoyed this game, and I'm giving it an 8.5 rating, and I'm excited to play it more. It is almost this party-type game with some actual Euro game elements in it as well. My group had a blast playing it. Let's go back now to the Marvel Universe, now with Infinity Gauntlet, a love letter game. Infinity Gauntlet is part of the Love Letter series with a twist. This is a mini against one player game where everyone will be taking on one player who takes on the role of Thanos, who is trying to collect all of the Infinity Stones while the heroes are trying to bring his health to 0. We played this game at game night last week, and a few of us had played Love Letter before and thought the original was just decent. But this game fell flat for all of us, and I'm giving it a 5.5 rating, where I give the original Love Letter a 6.5. So I would just rather play original Love Letter, and the Marvel version won't be staying in my collection long. Now checking out Welcome To. Welcome To is a flip and write that if you watch my top 10 roll and writes, you already know I really like this game. In this game, which the player count is only limited by the number of sheets you have, players will be flipping over cards and choosing between 3 piles of cards that have a number attached to a special ability. You then write that number down in your neighborhood on a house, making sure you go in ascending order, and then use the special ability if you wish. I really like Welcome To, giving it an 8.5, and it also works just as good solo, so that gets the same score. In fact, I play this game a lot more solo than multiplayer. Now let's check out the next game on my list with Wreck Raiders. Wreck Raiders is a set collecting worker placement type game where players will be drafting different dice and placing their workers in a spot matching that number. Then where you place your worker will give you different treasures and resources to help complete sets and build up your aquariums. One of the neat things about this game is if you place your worker beside another worker, that worker also gets some treasure, which makes for some interesting decisions. What I didn't like is how you roll dice into the lid of box, which has squares of different resources, and where these dice land, those dice would get those resources. I thought it was kind of a weird mechanic that could manipulate it in a player's favor. I played a couple solo games of this and thought it was just decent, where I give it a 6.5 solo rating. But I would like to try this out multiplayer still. Let's check out the Vikings chess game now in Hnefatafl. Hnefatafl, or however you pronounce this series of letters, was a game I had never heard of before last week when a friend brought it to game night. Hnefatafl is this sort of chess-like game designed by Vikings hundreds of years ago. In fact, BGG says it was invented in the year 400. The goal of the black pieces is to surround the white king, and the goal of the white is to get a king to a corner. All the pieces can move in an unlimited space orthogonally up to another piece. I thought it was a good abstract game, giving this a 7 rating. After playing, I have even been debating getting my own set. It also blows my mind that a game can be this old and can still be better than a lot of modern games. Moving on to the next game in Role Player. Role Player is a dice drafting game with the theme of creating your D&D character. You will be drafting dice and putting them in specific spots to try and match up the stats of the character you have and are trying to create. You will also be getting special abilities and buying cards at the market to help you along the way. It is essentially what Sagrada would be with 2 or 3 expansions played with it. I will give it an 8 rating as a multiplayer game, and I did check out the solo version, which I give a solid 7.5 solo rating. Just because it loses a little something, just since you aren't drafting against other players now, but it's still really good. Moving on to a game I talked about last week on my Shelf of Shame list with In the Hall of the Mountain King. In the Hall of the Mountain King is a polyomino tile placing game where players are digging out a mountain and discovering treasures and statues. You will be recruiting new trolls to help you with this, and these trolls have resources on them, and when you get them, they get those resources, and you get all the resources of the trolls that are beneath them. So it is this neat, cascading resource gathering system. What I enjoyed the most, though, was the spell cards you can use, which give you some fun game-breaking abilities. I did like this game quite a bit, giving it a 7.5, and I'm pretty happy I finally got this game off of my Shelf of Shame, but I am slapping myself a bit for it staying on the shelf for this long. And that should adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this content. And if you did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the board meeting to see more videos from me in the future. I hope you all have an amazing day, and take care, everyone.